friends, welcome back to this episode on our channel. Go ahead and put in the comments, where are you watching from? We want to connect with you, so tell us, where are you from?
I'm excited about today. It was kind of like Adele and I opened a time capsule yesterday where we went back into our past, into 2018, October of 2018, when we had one of the toughest, challenging seasons of our life. And I can't help but to think, Adele, that the people watching this may be in the same position or a similar position than we were, just brokenness. Like, what do I do?
Yes.
How do I pray? How do I walk through this? I can't even get my thoughts together.
Right. In fact, we've had a lot of you reach out asking, what do I pray for? What is my next step? How do I ask God to save my marriage? And that's what we're going to be walking you through today, because it was such a gift yesterday.
Yeah.
We were sitting there having a wonderful espresso, and Travis said, hey, I found a note in my phone from October 23rd of 2018. And for a moment, I was like, do I really want to hear what that note says? Do I want to bring up all that
Yeah.
emotion right now? I'm in a really good space, and I find it interesting that I was thinking that way. But you went ahead and you read it, and it was like the Lord just gave me the most precious gift. Because what he read was all the prayers that I asked him to pray over me during this time while I was healing and trying to figure out and process all the pain. And as he was reading through that list, I started to see that prayer was answered. That prayer was answered. Wow, that prayer was answered. And I think it was a list of like 13 or 14 things. We're going to read them at the end of this video, so stay tuned for that. But by the end of that list of prayers that were prayed over me and that I prayed over myself and our marriage, to see that every single prayer that I answered was every single prayer that I prayed was answered.
Praise the Lord.
I mean, these were the depths
Amen.
of my heart,
Yes.
of just anguish. And God, are you there? Are you going to help me?
Right.
And to see now, 4.5 years later, that not only did he show up, but he abundantly blessed the prayers. And so it had us reflecting. Well, first of all, I just sat there and sobbed yesterday. It was just the most beautiful moment. I felt so chosen. I felt so seen and heard and loved.
And you said grateful. You were
so
crying
grateful.
sobs of gratitude.
I had so much gratitude for what the Lord has done in my heart. And so this morning we decided to walk down memory lane, and I got out my journal from that time, and it was just really interesting to see the progression of what was happening. And I haven't revisited these since 2018. I have not read these. And so that's what we want to share with you today, because I believe it really shows a progression and a process of the Lord working and my heart posture in my healing.
This is real, raw. This is your heart during that time, during that period. And obviously your heart has changed throughout the years. But this is so great because you may be in the same position. You may be like, you know what? My heart is so broken. I am so hurt. I don't know how I would ever forgive my spouse for what they did to me. I don't even know how I can move on. And earlier we were talking about Psalms 34, where God draws near to the brokenhearted. God draws near to you, the brokenhearted. Hey, that's what he wants to be there, is to be there to comfort you, to walk this road with you. You're not alone in this. You don't have to be alone in this. And I love when you're about to read this, I can tell the progression of how you're going to walk through this, that God was right there.
Oh, yeah. Very near to me.
Yeah.
And you can see it in each journal entry. I didn't write very much during that time. Writing for me was such a task. I was in survival and just trying to get through life at that time. And so I'm glad that I wrote down at least several. And if you're...
I want to say something else too. You said that the reason you didn't write it down is because it made it real.
I was in denial, which is part of the steps of grieving.
Right.
And writing in this journal made it too real. for me at that time. And so
Wow.
I avoided it because I was like, I don't want to really admit that this is true.
Mm. Mm.
But I'm so glad looking back that I at least wrote down a few because it really shows me how the Lord was working. So this was one day after Discovery Day. Today is the worst day of my entire life. I am so deeply broken. You have stolen our marriage intimacy. You have destroyed my heart in a way I never thought could happen. I committed myself to you for 12 years, and out of those 12 years, you gave me the last two. I'm so angry with you for so many things. A portion of me hates you. Dear God, take this away from me. I need you, God. I need to feel your loving arms around me. I hate how I feel. I hate what this has done to me as a person. I was a strong woman, now broken in a million pieces. God, help me pick these pieces up. I only want you, God. I promise to only depend on you for the rest of my life. I will stop putting my faith in people and my business, and I will only trust you. And the verse for that day was Psalm 143:8. Let the dawning day bring me revelation of your tender, unfailing love. Give me light for my path and teach me, for I trust in you. And then 4 days later, today I set myself free of carrying a cross that is not mine to carry. The pain isn't going to melt away overnight, but I am not Travis's punisher. I want to live my best life today, not tomorrow. We are not promised tomorrow, and I don't want to die wishing I wouldn't have spent so many days sad, depressed, and unforgiving. I want to spend my days loving this man, God. You are in his heart, and I'm choosing to trust you with my heart. Trusting Travis will be hard at many times, I know, but I choose to forgive and trust you, Lord. As I process each event that is haunting my mind, I will forgive Travis over and over, just like you commanded us to do. Lord, I am yours to do with as you see fit with my life. And the verse for that day was Psalm 55:22. So here's what I've learned through it all. Leave all your cares and anxieties at the feet of the Lord, and measureless grace will strengthen you. And wow, like those two verses that went with those two entries couldn't have been more tangible for exactly what I needed to hear from the Lord on those days.
I think it's interesting how that's 4 days difference. The complete difference in a thought shift or how
Yes.
you are feeling about
Yes.
me or how you're feeling about the situation.
Yes. And during those 4 days, I was grieving hard.
So
And
you weren't resisting it.
I was not resisting it. I was really allowing it to be there. And, where I said, I need to feel your loving arms around me. And for those 4 days, that's exactly what I felt. I just felt like the Lord just scooped me up
Yeah.
and held me for those 4 days and just had good conversation with me and was opening my eyes that, you know what, this doesn't mean anything about me and everything about you and your heart.
Yeah.
And my responsibility in this is to walk this road and heal from it and grow from it and not to be a victim and stay a victim.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's more journal entries I'm going to read because it's an up and down roller coaster. I have a day where I'm talking about how grateful I am and where we are and what God has shown me and how I'm choosing to walk this path of healing. But then I have other times where I'm like, today was a really bad day.
Wow. Before
And
you keep going, I just want to share. This is our story. This is specifically Adele's story right now, and we would love for you to put yourself into what we are going through, what we went through during that time, but also knowing that our story is completely different than yours, and the healing is different. But there's some principles that you can get out of this, and I think one that you're really showing here is God is there.
I am running to him.
Yeah.
That he was my safe place in this whole thing. And I want to just share that prior to this happening, God was not my priority. I did not have a personal relationship with him. I think I was heading that direction, but there wasn't anything that had happened in my life that forced me to need him
Wow.
until this moment. And I saw that, and you can hear that in the last part of the first journal entry is, I only want you, God, and I promise to only depend on you for the rest of my life, because I was so broken and I was at the lowest point in my life that I knew without him, I wasn't going to get through this. And so he did. He drew so close to me during that time. And that's when my relationship really started with him.
Yeah, can I ask you another question? I'm curious, as you read these, can you get present to what it was like then?
Yeah. Yeah, I can recall these emotions. I've had healing around it. And so it's where I can recall it, but it's not still part of me. It doesn't still have an emotional charge
Yeah,
to it because
right.
of the lasting healing that I've
Yeah,
had. Which is interesting, since this is the first time I'm going back and reading it. I didn't know how it was going to impact me, and I didn't know. I put tissues here because I
yeah,
wasn't sure.
yeah.
And to feel reading through this, I actually feel more grateful and
Me too.
just realizing the path that the Lord walked us through so that we could be here
Yeah.
doing this video for you
Right?
watching
Good point.
right now. Like,
Amen.
you are the reason.
Amen.
God draws close to the brokenhearted, and if that is you, he wants to draw close to you. And I really believe that he allowed us to go through this for that purpose.
I agree with you. You brought up something else I shared with you yesterday, that during the middle of this, 5 days later, in the middle of the night, she woke me up and she was dreaming. And you woke me up saying, I'm going to show you how pain works through God's wisdom. You didn't wake me up physically. I mean, you were still asleep, but you woke me up by talking. And she woke me up saying these words in the middle of the night. I'm going to show you how pain works through God's wisdom. Wow.
Wow. Looking at that, and who knows what the Lord was saying to me during that time, but
Right.
he has absolutely done that.
Right.
He's showed us so much about pain and human beings' hearts and how we process pain, and the amount of wisdom that he has poured out
Right.
so that we could understand pain is just incredible.
It just brings me to what you were just saying to our audience is all of this brings us right here
Yeah.
to be able to give hope that, listen, there is hope on the other side of betrayal. There's hope on the other side of this broken heart that you feel.
Yeah.
There's hope, and God is there to provide that hope.
And then one day later, I wrote how God has orchestrated this whole thing from start to finish. And I'm not going to read this because it involves details, but what I was doing was I was taking the time to look for God. How is he showing up right now? Because when I'm able to see that he's in this, I'm able to trust him more. And so by looking at some of the details on how this betrayal came out and
Yes.
how the right people were there to walk us through this path,
Yes.
and I couldn't help but see God in all the details.
Every bit of it.
And it just gave me hope. It gave me vision for the future, that if he's doing this now, he's not going to stop. He's going to keep going. And so what I want to encourage you, if you're walking through a dark time right now, is look for God. Because we know that what you look for, you find. And if I'm looking for ways that I'm hurt and stuck and angry and just full of rage, and I look for how disloyal you are, I'm going to find that over
God-
and over and over.
God is always there. God is always there. God is always present. He's always there, even in our pain. And we can look backwards and be like, where was God during that time?
Yeah.
And you'll find him. I promise you'll find him. If you look for God, you will always find him in every circumstance. Everything you look for, you'll find God in.
Yeah. On 10:14, I wrote, what are my feelings? And I know that if you're walking through betrayal, it's hard to even identify what these feelings are. And that's what I was doing here. I am so deeply hurt because of betrayal. I feel so violated and wronged. I feel like my world as I knew it has crumbled in front of my eyes. I feel scared, very scared that it will happen again. I feel like I am not enough. I feel like if I can't satisfy him, he will find another way to be satisfied. I am angry he lied for so many years, and I feel so unloved and unappreciated. And on the same day, this just blows my mind that I'm feeling this way. And on the exact same day, I wrote my prayer for Travis. Lord, I pray for Travis that you would turn his heart onto you. Help me love him and give him a fresh love for me. I surrender my rights to you as Lord and ask you to bless him as he honors you and to expose him if he walks in deceit. Build him up as the man you intended him to be. Help me support and respect him. I ask for your help to love him again. Amen.
Oh, what a beautiful prayer. That's such a beautiful prayer for me and for my heart. And that would be a beautiful prayer for you to pray over your spouse. That's a very honoring, life-giving prayer.
Yeah, and that's the first time you're hearing it.
Yeah, I've never heard that. I really appreciate you praying that over me.
Yeah.
Because I felt that. I have felt exactly what you just prayed. I have felt that. And I would want to be completely exposed if my choices lead me that way again. I would want to be exposed. It's important. And I'm so thankful you prayed that over my heart.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
On October 22nd, I wrote, today I want to quit and walk away. Is that you? Do you feel that way right now? I know I had many times of feeling this way, of being on this roller coaster of emotions. And I look back at that time and I'm really glad I didn't allow my emotions to make decisions for me, because I would have walked away. Feelings are something that comes and goes. And I like what we say about feelings is they're like children. You should listen to them. You should acknowledge that they're there. And you should respect your feelings. But you should never, ever allow them to make important decisions in your life, including walking away from your marriage. Philippians 4:6 tells me that God is writing an amazing story in my life and not to quit before my story ends. I needed that verse. I really needed it because I needed to see that God's not done here.
Amen.
He's just getting started on writing our story. And I look back and I'm like, wow, what a story he was writing.
Yeah, but it didn't seem like that there,
No,
right?
no. This
Like
was
you
just,
didn't see light at the end of the tunnel.
this was just a sliver of hope
Yeah.
that I got. And then I said, how do I do this? I am so heartbroken. I honestly can't imagine getting over this kind of hurt and betrayal. I need you, Lord. Please come fill my heart with love for Travis again. I can hardly even look at him.
Yeah.
And I wrote in big letters, why me? That was a question I asked myself regularly. Why me?
It's touching you now.
And I look back at that and I know why me. I know that he chose me to walk through this because he knew my heart posture and he knew that I was going to follow him. And so I see these letters and I'm like, why me? Because I was chosen. Because I'm his daughter. Because he's pursued me. He loves me. And he wants to write a story through me. And he wants to impact other people through my testimony, which is just such a privilege, such an honor, such a exciting thing for me to see our pain redeemed through our testimony.
Yes. Romans 8:28. God can turn everything around for the good of him. Anything that was meant for evil, anything that was meant to destroy us, God has the ability and wants to turn it all around to glorify him.
Yeah, he does.
Amen.
5 days after that, I wrote this journal entry. My feelings towards her have spiked today. I hate her more than words can even express. I saw several women when we were out today that reminded me of her, and it sent me spiraling out of control. I also felt my anxiety getting so strong, constantly wondering if he was looking at other women. When these feelings come on, it's very overwhelming and scary for me. Literally, I was happy right before I was reminded of her.
Man, I am sure that you relate to that. Whether you're the husband or the wife that has been betrayed, there is this sense of pain and anguish against people that you don't even know, that you're looking out into this crowd of people and you're just triggered.
Oh, yeah. Everywhere I went, I was triggered.
And that's what
Oh,
we've experienced coaching couples going through betrayal and going through infidelity. Is there is the person who is betrayed, they live in this hell, this prison of triggers, to where when they are in the house or when they go out or
yeah. I didn't want to leave the house at all. And here I am a salon owner. All women work for me. All women are coming in for hair services. I'm
yeah,
surrounded by women all day long. And the triggers that were there were just so dominating,
yeah. Yeah, and in that, it's not just you there. I work there too. You know,
right?
I'm there with them, and you get the
Right.
ability to be triggered all the time with me there.
Yeah. Yeah, that was so challenging.
If yeah,
Oh, I wanted to just stay locked up inside.
I'm
And
sure you're
maybe,
relating.
maybe I won't be triggered. But that didn't work either because songs would trigger me, TV would trigger me, my phone would trigger me, Instagram would trigger. I mean, it just, they were everywhere. I could
Yeah.
not escape.
And this is the typical response that we see as coaches for the person who is betrayed. This is very typical. It's normal. If you're experiencing these triggers that Adele's talking about, I mean, everything was great, right, for that day. We went to
We
this
were fine.
beautiful, like, event,
Outdoor, yeah.
outdoor event that had a lot of people there, a lot of fun.
And it was like a kid
It
thing,
was, yeah, it was a kid event.
which makes it even more like, wow,
Good point.
Satan was attacking me from every single angle. And I do see betrayal and infidelity is one of the biggest spiritual warfare circumstances that people go through.
Yeah.
It is an attack from the enemy. And on the 31st, I wrote, I've conquered, and then I wrote her name. She no longer holds any power over me. So in that post, I felt like I was in a battle with this other woman in my mind. Not a real battle because she wasn't involved.
Right.
But in my mind, I was battling her of who's better, who's more enough. And 4 days later, I wrote, I've conquered this battle. She no longer holds any power over me. And I wish I would have written more between those 4 days. What happened in my heart for me to go from being so triggered and having so many emotions of, I remember hate and rage and jealousy and envy and just, oh, all these terrible thoughts, to being empowered that I've got this. I've conquered this battle. And I know I was spending a lot of time with the Lord during that time, but Romans 8:28 is at the bottom of this post, and it says, "And we know that all things work together for good to them that love God, to them who are called according to his purpose."
That's what I was just saying.
And I can see that. I can see that in this post here of he's working all these things for good. And I could not see that then.
Right.
These verses that are here, I mean, every one of them on the pages were exactly what I needed. But it didn't give me this feeling of, oh, I'm on the other side of this.
Right. You're not completely healed.
I'm not healed. And so I'm seeing these verses and I'm like, I hope that's true. I hope it's true for me. And you may be saying the same thing. I hope God hears me. I hope he's going to work things for good. But I think it takes us going to him first. It takes us saying, you're in control and I give this to you. And that is where all things work together for good to them who love God. And that is where my focus was. My focus wasn't on the betrayal and Travis. My focus was on God and my heart.
Amen. Yeah.
And what do I need to heal through this?
And the same thing for you. You know, your spouse betrayed you, or your spouse did something against you, and it's not about fixing them anymore. It's about, how do I take care of this? How do I take care of me? How do I take care of my heart first? Because I am so important, and so are you. You're important. It's so great that you were searching God and saying, how do I take care of this?
Yeah.
How do I how do I take good personal care of me right now in my heart?
Yeah. On the 23rd, I wrote down some prayers for Travis, that he will continue walking for God, that you will give him strength, courage, wisdom, peace, and joy, that he will be able to get over the past and create a new future, that I will be more forgiving, that he will be selfless and humble, that you will guard his mind and keep him pure in his thoughts and actions, that you will give him patience and understanding for me, that you'll give him strength and energy to handle all that is on his plate, that you'll calm his mind and thoughts, and that all the advice that's given to him will be godly advice, that the devil is removed and stays away, and that negative self-talk and hopelessness is gone, that you will protect our daughter's heart and that we'll have extra patience with her during this time, that you'll give him courage to be honest, and that he can support me with what I need.
Wow.
Wow. I read that and I'm like, I wrote that? How did I write that 23 days after I found out?
Yeah.
And I think it goes back to show like it was God. He was the one giving me the strength to even be able to think these things about you and pray them over you.
Right. Right.
And I think that it did help bring that love back because I started seeing you in a different light. I stopped seeing you as someone who hurt me and started seeing you as someone that is a child of God. And praying over you in your life gave me so much comfort and peace during that time when everything else was raging around me.
Right. Praying for your spouse. Wow.
Yeah.
Even the spouse that betrayed you, that broke your heart the worst.
Yeah.
You would be willing to pray for my heart.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Yeah. I
Wow.
said, I can't believe, looking back, I remember doing that, but it feels like it was a different life almost. But I'm so
Yeah.
grateful that the Lord led me down that path. And I started surrounding myself with community and I was being spoken into. People were speaking truth over me. And I think that's so important, when you're walking through really dark times, you need people who are on the other side or who know how to speak truth because they love Jesus and they love me.
Not just anybody. Not
Not
just
just
anybody. I love
anyone.
what you just said. They love Jesus and they love you.
And they're for marriage.
Yeah, and they'll speak truth. They're willing to speak truth.
Yeah.
Powerful.
I got bad advice from people and I quickly cut those people out of my life because I knew God had called me to stay in the marriage. And if I'm getting advice from people telling me you should divorce him, you're crazy if you stay with him, that's not going to lead me down the right path that the Lord is leading me down. And so I see that the people who spoke into me are the reasons I was able to get to the point where I'm praying over you.
Yeah.
And it's not about me, it's about our hearts.
That's so good.
Yeah. And then on 10/29, I wrote down, so let me give a little backstory with this. I could not find love for Travis. I wanted to because I knew the Lord wanted me to stay in this marriage. And if I'm going to stay in the marriage, I want to have love. I want to enjoy my marriage. I don't want to be miserable the rest of my life. And so my counselor at the time, she said, why don't you write a list of the things that you love about him? And I was like, oh, if I can even write one right now, I'll try.
I'm sure you relate to this too. When you've been betrayed, how can you come up with things that you love?
Right.
Or that you're
Because I
grateful for?
also had hate. And you can't have love and hate happening at the same time in my heart. We know that. It's not physiologically possible. So in order to get to this space, I know the Lord took me there. And when I finished, my mind was absolutely blown. And maybe this is an exercise that you can try for yourself as well. But I sat down and I just started writing down the things that I love about him. And I remember the first 5 were like digging in the depths of my soul to find just 5 things. And I was like, this is disappointing. I don't feel like this exercise is working for me. But it was so wild that by the time I hit like 4 and 5 things, it was like my heart opened and it started pouring out. By the time I finished, which I ended up with
Wow.
105 things that I love about Travis in the middle of betrayal. And it was this exercise right here that I realized I'm in this marriage because I want to be in this marriage, because I love this man. Even though he is the one who's hurt me, I still love him. And I got such a clear picture that these are the things that are character things about you that are really special to me. They're not just superficial things. And I'm just so grateful I did this exercise because my heart reopened during it. And I can see that there was a shift in me during that time.
I love to hear that you're doing that. And that would be so powerful, such a great exercise. I'm glad that you referred that as an exercise to do. I think that'd be great. And what keeps coming up to my mind is, man, I'm just so grateful that my heart was shifted already into being in the relationship with you. Because
Yes.
I imagine it would be very difficult if I was not.
Right.
And you may be experiencing that as well. And you may not even be relating to what we're even talking about. You may be betrayed, but like, my spouse is still doing that thing and still they're not being sorry for their actions.
Right.
And I just want you to lean into here and hear our story and relate to the parts that you can relate to, because every story is going to be completely different. And you can reach out to get some more support for additional things that you need as well.
And then on November 13th, I wrote a very short post and it says, "Another bomb went off in my life today. Learning that there was more information about being unfaithful. I am so hurt, angry, sad, lost, afraid, devastated, and alone. I can't understand how one person could do this much hurt. My thoughts are everywhere and I can't even write." And that was the day that I found out that he had not been fully transparent in his disclosure and ripped a hole in my heart
Yeah.
deeper than the first one.
Yeah, so there's two different ways to go about this. There's discovery and disclosure. Disclosure means I am going to share with you everything, all the secrets that I've had in the past. I'm going to bring all that up to you and I'm going to share it with you, and you don't have to do the work.
Right.
And then discovery is you are being a detective and you are trying to figure out, is he being honest? Is that everything? Is there more? And then you're looking for extra because I'm not being fully honest. And secrets will make us sick. And I shared with you the things that I thought would be most appropriate and held back things that I didn't think would be helpful. And a lot of it now, looking back, I have many years to be able to look back onto that, is not necessarily saving Adele, but saving Travis.
Yeah.
It really had nothing to do with you, but had to do with me and my thought process around not wanting to share those things. But it really is one of those things where you just read a whole lot of beautiful things throughout this, that your heart is going back and forth, and God is really leaning into you and taking and healing you in a particular way. And then that healing completely, it's like a Mack
Destroyed.
truck hits it, and you're starting over again,
Yeah.
completely at the bottom.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, when I look back to one of those first prayers I prayed is that the Lord would expose deceit in you. And I'm grateful he did, because I would not want to build a foundation on lies.
Yeah. Nor do you. You do not want to build a foundation on lies or secrets. It has to be a solid foundation of truth.
Yes. So I'm so thankful. I'm not thankful for how it came out, but I'm very grateful that it came out because it gave us the opportunity to start fresh. And that's when I actually saw freedom in you. That's when I really got to see the difference of you being somewhat truthful to completely and totally transparent about yourself. And so I actually did not write a whole lot after that. My heart was hurting so much during that time that I couldn't write. I couldn't get my thoughts out. And I wish I would have, so that I could share with you what that was like. But shortly after that, we went to an intensive. I think it was 15 days after that, we were in our intensive, which is exactly where I needed to be to walk through that healing. And I learned so much about myself and about you, and opened my eyes a to the Lord's path to healing and the first steps that we needed to take. And then, of course, we just didn't stop from there. We just
Yeah.
kept going
Yeah, the intensive really was something different. I mean, we went to counseling a couple times a week, and
3 times a
it
week.
was so good for us. I highly recommend getting
Yeah.
professional help immediately to walk you through anything you're going through. And the intensive is just a different level of healing. It's intense. It is being together and working on ourselves and our marriage for 4 days straight.
Yeah.
And it was a great way for us to get healing in our marriage.
Yes. That's one of the reasons why we offer intensives here in our home. We truly believe intensives are a rapid rate of healing when both spouses show up willing and open. Versus counseling, what we were seeing is we were having to go for an hour at a time, and it was drawing out the healing. And a lot of the times when we're looking at betrayal and infidelity, I would get in my counselor's office, and at the 45-minute mark, we're finally getting to something, and then it's time to go. So I would open up these big wounds, and then we wouldn't get to any kind of solution. So I'm just a basket case leaving.
Yeah.
And I was feeling that over and over, and we had an amazing counselor, but it just wasn't the ability to process through all of the steps of healing. I was getting them in bite-sized pieces. And so that's why we recommend intensives. I'll put a link here where you can visit our website and read about our intensives, but there's so many out there that are just wonderful resources for couples walking this road.
Yeah, if you don't choose us, choose someone. Get help navigating this from someone that you trust
Yes.
and loves Jesus and loves you. Find someone you can reach out to. There's lots of resources.
Yes. Or maybe you're watching this and you want to help another couple. I'll put a QR code here. We have a way that you can actually donate towards other couples' intensives or healing.
Yeah, we've had a few people ask for that, and they have reached out to be able to do that. And thank you for doing that, by the way. You have helped other couples go through this procedure for either no cost or low cost.
Yes.
Thanks.
So valuable. So we want to close this video with giving you a list of prayers that you can pray over you, your marriage, your broken heart, and restoration. And these were prayers that I gave to Travis so that he would know how to pray for me.
Which I think is so unique and interesting that you would give me these prayers to pray for you less than a month into discovery.
Right.
Blows
I don't
my
know
mind.
what prompted me to do that, but it was
It's beautiful though.
amazing. Yeah, rereading these. This is what really impacted me yesterday when I got to see that every one of these the Lord has answered. To pray that I keep God number one and keep Satan out. When anger comes, focus on Jesus and be angry at the sin and not Travis. To be able to let go of the past. To embrace the future. That I will be able to forgive. That God will give me a new love for Travis. That God will build me up and restore my heart. That he will give me my confidence back. That I will support and respect Travis. That I will see steps made by Travis to rebuild trust. That I will honor the Lord in everything. That he will calm my heart, mind, and body. That he will bring joy back to my heart. That he will send godly direction from all those who talk or encounter me. And that I will have extra patience with our daughter to love her and not be short with her. And to realize that, wow, each one of these prayers were answered. Just, it constantly is like filling my heart just with so much gratitude and just how special and chosen I feel. I feel so seen in this, that he heard my prayers, even when I had no idea what was going to happen. I didn't know what the future held. I didn't know if we were going to be together or not. I didn't know if you had truly had a heart shift or not.
Yeah.
There was a lot of trust I was putting in the Lord and praying these things. These are very real and raw. And he's not only answered them, he's like poured out a blessing, a
Yes.
favor, and an anointing on our marriage. And wow, he can do the same thing for you. He's the same God. He's the same God that he is for me as he is for you. And he wants to draw close to you. He wants you to bring these heavy things to him because he is the only one that can create lasting healing. So I encourage you today, speak these prayers over yourself. Speak the prayers that we shared over your husband and watch the Lord work in your marriage and in your heart.